All right, so we've been having a heat wave. I want to talk about, how to properly store your pots. I want to talk about what's coming for these. I do want you to make 2 of them, again, over 10 inches tall, and they need to come in at some point. You see I have this tightly wrapped in plastic, really tight. It's kind of pushed down on the inside here. And under this plastic, I also have some damp paper towels, all right? What this is going to do is create a little environment for the pot so it doesn't dry out too much. Now, in finishing these, you do want to work around this rim and make sure the rim is really nice and compressed. Sometimes people want to bring in a lot of water. Remember, water is going to soak into the clay and make it wet, right? And it's also going to kind of run down the piece, and we don't want to get this bottom area really wet right now. Also, if you apply water and then do a lot of rubbing, it's going to kind of wash away the clay and expose the aggregate or the grog that's in the clay. You've noticed this clay has a little bit of kind of like, it feels like sand in it. That helps it kind of hand build and stand up. The other thing that's important before it gets too dry is that we round this edge down here. This is a real common place for a crack. So you see I'm bringing my thumb around here. This piece is leather hard so I can pick it up. The other thing we want to do is dent in the bottom just a little bit because we want to sit on the extremities, on the outside of the bottom. We don't want it to sit on the middle. Sometimes the middle can kind of bow out and then you have a pot that rocks. That's another reason when you're building, you don't want to tilt your pot, right? Because then the bottom gets rounded and it's a rocking pot. We don't want that. Coming down the road, we are going to be looking at things like handles, right? So here's this pot that I have. It's kind of straight on the bottom. Top is kind of like this. We're going to look at handles. We're also going to look at spouts. So on some coil pot that you build, maybe you'll have to build a third one. We'll look at doing another material pickup and potentially dropping off some things to be fired. Maybe if you have stuff the week of the 14th. Could be the week after that. But we're going to look at handles and spouts in the coming weeks, okay? So in looking at this, where could maybe a couple little handles could go in this area? Maybe what if there was a big giant spout that came out one side and like a handle that came out the other, right? So there's a lot of different things that we could do. So that information is coming. I want you to focus on coil building right now. Again, I'm not super particular about, see how the surface is bumpy? That's fine. That's the process of coil building going around. But the overall form is pretty nice. If those bumps really bother you, look, I cut this lid of a plastic container in half. You can go over it and kind of get rid of some of those. But that's not my worry. My concern or my focus is not that. It's not about how smooth you can make this surface. It's more about, can you control the coil building process? And then as we go forward, week 5 and week 6, we'll talk about handles in week 5. We'll talk about spouts, and we'll talk more about handles in week 6. So the idea, again, is we want to keep these what? We want to keep these wrapped up. And sometimes, early coil pots that you make, once you get better at it, you don't even like the first one. So maybe you just, if one's dried out already, you let it dry, you make another one. We'll have an opportunity to go to the shop and get more materials if you're out, or you do some reclaiming of clay that didn't work out so much. But at the moment, we're really focused on getting this coil building thing really figured out, all right? So I'm going to keep this thing under wraps, nice and tight, not trying to let it dry out too quick. All right. And keep it out of the sun.